sunset EPA regulations, and I would prevent the EPA from creating their own law without congressional authority.
Thank you. Mr. Speaker.
Okay. I believe that the mountaintop removal mining is fine as long as the companies reclaim the area. When I lived in Washington State, a warehouser would go in and log off an entire area, but they planted more trees when they left. We need to do that here. Coal is the heart of Kentucky. We should create more research on how to use it. If it burns, it'll run an engine. And if somebody tries telling me that you can't do this on your property, then I'm going to fight them. Right down the street from my house is a natural gas pumping station. They were using diesel engines to pump the gas.
Thank you. Mr. Martin.
I pretty well have to outline the question I would have to read. Mountaintop removal is the business of those people who own the mountaintop. Kentucky takes care of its own mountaintops. The people who own the property take care of their mountaintops. In between the state and the people, we the people, we can take care of our business. We need the federal government to butt out of all the people's business and the state's business, period. The only reason they're there is because they have bonus by buying us on things like ARRA that's going on now. One of the reasons we have such a debt, it is unconstitutional way of buying us.
Sir. Secretary Grayson.
I support mountaintop removal. I'm adamantly opposed to the so-called guidance that was issued last week by the EPA that will not only outlaw mountaintop removal, but may lead to the end of all deep mining, traditional mining in Appalachia. It's a war on Appalachia, it's a war on East Kentucky, but it's a war on all of Kentucky. And it's important to send somebody to Washington who's going to fight for this issue and be consistent on this issue. And I've been listening to Rand on this issue, and it's interesting, when he's in Tennessee, he tells the folks there that coal-powered energy plants are one of the least favorable forms of energy available. But in Kentucky, he'll say something different because he knows that's not what you guys want to hear. So I think it's important to have somebody who's very consistent on this issue, who's going to fight on this issue. And I've asked Senator McConnell, if I win this race, to go on the Energy Committee, so I can be on the front lines. We fight the EPA, the Obama administration. We win this war on coal. It's important for Kentucky's future that we win, and we're going to.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Field for Dr. Paul.
Let's continue on the theme of coal. The coal industry creates more than 60,000 jobs in Kentucky. Recently, Senate Minority Leader Mitch McConnell said the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency is using, quote, cumbersome red tape to create a backdoor ban on coal mining in Kentucky. He's talking about the EPA's Section 404 coal mining permit approval process. The senator also cites a recent report by the Senate Environmental and Public Works Committee saying that it's estimated that could roughly cost about 3,500 mining jobs here in Kentucky are in jeopardy if the EPA continues on that path. Also, for every coal mining job, 11 other jobs are dependent on coal. That means up to 38,500 jobs in Kentucky could be affected by this legislation. So, how do we balance the need for coal and the jobs it provides with our responsibility to protect the environment in which we live?
I think we have an arrogant and out-of-control EPA. I think it's criminal that regulatory agencies think that they can write their own law. I think that we need to, as Congress, restrain these agencies. One of my proposals is to sunset all EPA regulations, make them start over next year, justify every last regulation, and let's start anew. The EPA is out of control. They issue their own press releases saying, if Congress doesn't have new rules on gas, on greenhouse emissions, we will. Where do they get the authority to become a lawmaking body. I say restrain the EPA. I say more state and local control and less federal control. But it is particularly galling to me that they do this without any vote of Congress. Jobs have been lost. I talked to suppliers in the coal industry as well as people in the coal industry. Jobs are already being lost because they're slowing down the permit process, and this should end.
Thank you, sir.
I feel that the EPA needs to be restrained, as Paul was saying. They're doing things their own way with no authority whatsoever. The tree huggers are causing nothing but problems. I had a home in Overgard, Arizona that was almost lost because of the Rodeo Chittisky fire, because the EPA would not allow the trees to be logged off. They wouldn't even allow them to be thinned. There were over 400,000 acres that were burned because the EPA said we need to protect the trees. They're all gone now. There needs to be oversight on what these people do without any authority.
Thank you, sir. Ms. Martin.
I don't need to read this question, do I? Or you want me to read it out loud? Okay, the EPA is just like 99% of all the other acts, agencies, bureaus of the federal government. They're intended to create problems so as to have problems to solve, so as to maintain and increase control of the people, just like Dingle said the other day. We've got to figure out how to control these people. The first Federal Reserve Act on down to the Patriot Act are all unconstitutional, immoral. We need to get back to the Constitution, revert. There will be no problem straightening out things with the little guts and the Constitution.
Thank you, Ms. Martin.
I think Neil laid out the facts pretty impressively, frankly, in this question about the economic impact that coal has on Kentucky, and specifically this part of Kentucky. I was very proud in 2008. I was asked to help write the Republican Party platform at the National Committee, and I co-chaired the Energy Environment Committee. And then when we met as a whole, I was able to add language to the Republican Party platform. It's in our platform right now to encourage the research and development in clean coal technology, so that coal can not only remain an important part of our present, but be an important part of our future. You know, we have the potential through coal to liquid plants, through increasing efficiencies of traditional coal-fired plants, to create a lot more energy independence for our country. This will help our national security, but more importantly, this is a jobs program. We're in the middle of a recession. We've got counties in Kentucky that have over 20% unemployment. And if this administration continues this war on coal, the future of this region is dark. We have to continue to fight it. And I'm going to be there on the front lines fighting the Energy Committee if I get a chance to serve.
Thank you. Mr. Stephenson.
Energy. As the United States Congressman John Brecker, as his field representative, I handle all energy-related matters through a great crisis. Number two, I own my own company with about 30 employees and oversaw a federal grant of millions of dollars, training every community action agency worker across the state of Kentucky. After I did my job of training them on how to weatherize senior citizens' homes, I abolished the nonprofit corporation. I abolished the nonprofit corporation. All
We've nibbled around this question just a little bit, or nibbled around this issue rather, and answering other questions, but I want to ask a more direct question. Many candidates for public office, including many of you on stage, have spoken out against earmark spending in Congress. However, oftentimes this sort of appropriation is the only solution